We'd love to know, what part of the world are you watching from right now? Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. Foundations. Max. Donovan hunched over the kitchen counter, calloused hands wrapped around a mug of black coffee, staring at the university tuition receipt. $120,000. His life savings, emptied for his only daughter, Amber. The worn lines around his steel blue eyes deepened as he glanced at the clock. 3:17 a.m. Sleep had become a luxury since Dorothy left. Max had built his life from nothing. Orphaned at 11, he'd fought his way through the foster system, worked construction through high school, and earned an engineering scholarship. Now, at 48, he was a respected mechanical engineering professor at Westridge University, known for his brilliant mind and uncompromising standards. His students feared and admired him in equal measure. The kitchen felt hollow, much like the rest of the sprawling craftsman home he'd renovated with his own hands. 22 years of marriage erased in a single conversation 3 months ago. "I need to find myself, Max," Dorothy had said, her voice unervingly calm. "I've spent my whole life being your wife, Amber's mother. I don't even know who I am anymore." Max took another sip of coffee. The bitter liquid matched his mood. He'd given Dorothy everything: a beautiful home, financial security, unwavering devotion. Yet somehow it wasn't enough. He thumbed through Amber's graduation photos. His daughter, brilliant, headstrong, the perfect blend of his analytical mind and Dorothy's creative spirit. She'd inherited his determination and her mother's golden brown eyes. Despite the divorce proceedings, Max had insisted on covering Amber's tuition at Thornfield Art Institute. She was pursuing her dream of becoming a gallery curator, and nothing, not even Dorothy's betrayal, would stand in the way of that. The ringing phone startled him. No one called at this hour unless something was wrong. "Dad," Amber's voice crackled through the speaker. "I got the internship at Galloway Fine Arts. Can you believe it? I'm going to be working with Vince Galloway himself." Max smiled, his first genuine smile in weeks. "That's incredible, sweetheart. I always knew you would." "It's all because of you," she said, excitement bubbling through her words. "The tuition, the encouragement, everything. You earned it," Max replied, pride warming his chest. "I just provided the opportunity." After they hung up, Max sat in the silent kitchen, feeling a momentary peace. Whatever was happening with Dorothy, at least his relationship with Amber remained untouched. That illusion shattered 3 days later. Max was grading papers in his home office when the doorbell rang. Dorothy stood on the porch, wearing an expression he hadn't seen before, a mixture of guilt and defiance. "I need to get the rest of my things," she said without preamble. Max stepped aside, allowing her to enter the home they'd built together. "Take whatever you want. I'll be in my office." "Max," she hesitated. "There's something else. Brandon's waiting in the car. He's going to help me move the heavier items." Max froze. "Brandon? Brandon Galloway, your yoga instructor? The one you assured me was just a friend when I questioned why you were spending 3 hours at yoga every Saturday." Dorothy's silence was answer enough. "How long?" Max asked, his voice dangerously quiet. "It doesn't matter. It matters to me, Dorothy." His control was slipping. "How long?" She lifted her chin. 8 months. But it became serious only after I left. 8 months. While he'd been working overtime to pay for Amber's tuition, his wife had been building a life with someone else. Does Amber know? The thought of his daughter keeping such a secret was unbearable. "Yes," Dorothy whispered. "She's known for about 2 months. He's been good to her, Max. She likes him." The betrayal hit him like a physical blow. His daughter had known and said nothing during their weekly calls, their text exchanges, even when he'd visited her at school 3 weeks ago. Max turned away. "Get your things and leave." Later that night, he called Amber. The call went straight to voicemail. He texted her. No response. 3 days passed with silence, then a week. Finally, an envelope arrived in the mail. Inside was a check returning his tuition payment and a handwritten note. "I'm changing my last name to Mom's maiden name, Levitt. You're dead to me. I found a new dad. He's Mom's new boyfriend. Don't try to contact me again." Max sat motionless, the note trembling in his hand. The daughter he'd sacrificed everything for had discarded him like yesterday's trash. His world, already cracked by Dorothy's betrayal, now shattered completely. That night, something hardened inside Maxwell Donovan. The good-natured professor who believed in second chances died, replaced by a man who would never again allow himself to be betrayed. Chapter 2. Rebirth. The first year after Amber's betrayal passed in a fog of grief and rage. Max threw himself into his work with a ferocity that alarmed his colleagues. His classes became notorious for their difficulty, his office hours were eliminated, and his previously open-door policy slammed shut. Students whispered about the transformation, nicknaming him the Machine for his cold, methodical approach. It was during this time that Nathaniel Nate Pierce entered his life. The young man had transferred to Westridge to complete his engineering doctorate, and despite Max's new reputation, sought him out as an advisor. "Professor Donovan," Nate said during their first meeting, "I've read all your published work on dynamic systems modeling. Your approach to chaos theory applications in mechanical design is revolutionary." Max studied the earnest young man, early 20s, sharp, intelligent eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, and a quiet confidence that was rare among his peers. "Revolution requires discipline, Mr. Pierce. Are you disciplined?" "Yes, sir. Military family. For years in the Marines before college." Something about Nate's direct manner penetrated Max's carefully constructed walls. He found himself agreeing to be the young man's advisor, a decision that would alter the course of both their lives. Nate became Max's protege, assisting with research, co-authoring papers, and eventually becoming a teaching assistant for Max's advanced courses. Their professional relationship gradually evolved into friendship, the only one Max allowed himself. One evening, as they worked late in the lab, Nate asked the question everyone else had been too afraid to voice. "Professor, what happened to you? The older students talk about how different you were before." Max's hands stilled on the keyboard. "Life happened, Nate. I learned that loyalty is a fairy tale we tell ourselves to sleep better at night." "Someone betrayed you," Nate said simply. "Everyone betrayed me," Max corrected. "My wife for another man. My daughter for a better father figure. The universe for letting me believe family meant something." Nate was silent for a long moment. "My fiancée cheated on me while I was deployed," he finally said. "With my best friend since childhood. I found out when I came home early after being injured." Max looked up, recognizing the same haunted look he saw in his own mirror. "What did you do?" he asked. A cold smile flickered across Nate's face. "I destroyed them both. Not physically, I'm not that stupid. But I made sure they lost everything that mattered to them." For the first time in over a year, Max felt a spark of interest. "How?" That night, over whiskey in Max's office, Nate shared his methodical dismantling of the two people who had betrayed him. How he'd discovered his friend's gambling problem and anonymously funded it until the man was ruined. How he'd ensured his ex-fiancée's dream job offer was rescinded by exposing plagiarism in her graduate thesis. "Revenge isn't about immediate gratification," Nate explained, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. "It's about patience, about understanding what really matters to your target and taking it away when they least expect it." As Max listened, something awoke inside him, a purpose, a path forward. "I want that," he admitted. "I want them to feel what I felt." Nate studied him carefully. "Then you need to stop reacting and start planning, Professor. Emotion makes you sloppy. Strategy makes you lethal." The next morning, Max woke with a clarity he hadn't felt since before Dorothy left. He showered, shaved his grief beard, and dressed in his best suit. Looking in the mirror, he hardly recognized himself. Leaner, harder, his eyes carrying a dangerous edge. "Time to play the long game," he told his reflection. That day, Professor Maxwell Donovan returned to campus a changed man. He reinstated his office hours, smiled at colleagues, and moderated the brutality of his courses. To the outside world, it appeared he'd finally processed his grief and moved on. Only Nate knew the truth, that behind Max's renewed engagement with the world lay a coldly calculating mind mapping out the perfect revenge. Chapter 3. Reconnaissance. Max knew that effective revenge required intelligence, detailed, comprehensive knowledge of his targets. Dorothy had moved in with Brandon Galloway, who owned Galloway Fine Arts, one of the most prestigious galleries in the city. Amber had not only changed her name to Levitt, but had secured a coveted internship at her new father's gallery. The connections were almost too perfect. With Nate's assistance, Max began gathering information. Public records revealed Brandon Galloway's business history, 3 galleries across the country, each more successful than the last. Social media provided glimpses into their new life together. Dorothy managing the gallery's PR, Amber assisting with exhibitions, the three of them sharing holiday photos like a perfect family. They look happy, Max observed one evening, staring at a Christmas photo of the trio in front of the gallery. People who post the most about their happiness are usually compensating for something, Nate remarked. We need to dig deeper. Through careful networking, Max reconnected with old friends in the art world, casually inquiring about Galloway's reputation. The public persona was impeccable, talented scout of new artists, charitable donor, respected businessman. But whispers existed beneath the surface. Rumors of artists being underpaid, of Galloway taking credit for discovering talent others had identified first, of questionable authentication practices. He's not as clean as he appears, Max mused. But there's nothing concrete we can use. Nate tapped his pen against his notebook. What about Amber? Have you tried contacting her again? Max's jaw tightened. Not since she returned my calls with a cease and desist letter 6 months ago. Maybe it's time, Nate suggested. Not to reconcile, but to assess. People reveal their vulnerabilities when they believe they're in control. After careful consideration, Max crafted a brief email to Amber's work address. Amber, I respect your decision to remove me from your life. I only write because I've been asked to recommend graduating students for gallery internships, and I wanted to ensure I'm not sending them to a position that would put them in contact with you, causing discomfort. Wishing you success in your career. Maxwell Donovan. The response came 3 days later. Professor Donovan, I appreciate your professional courtesy. Galloway Fine Arts only accepts interns through our rigorous selection process, not through recommendations. Please direct students to our website. And yes, I would prefer not to have contact with any of your protégés. Amber Levitt, Assistant Curator, Galloway Fine Arts. Formal. Cold. But she responded, Nate observed, reading over Max's shoulder. And signed with her professional title. She's staking her territory, showing you she succeeded without you. Max nodded, and defensive about the selection process. Interesting that she calls them your protégés with such disdain. She's competitive, Nate said. Insecure about her position, perhaps? Worried your students might outshine her. A plan began forming in Max's mind. I think it's time I take an interest in the art world again, he said slowly. In fact, I believe I've found the perfect thesis topic for your doctoral work, Nate. What did you have in mind, Professor? Engineering authentication methods for fine art. Using spectroscopic analysis and materials science to detect forgeries. Max's smile held no warmth. The art world is plagued by fakes, after all. Wouldn't it be a public service to develop better detection methods? Nate caught on immediately. And if we happen to test these methods on pieces from certain galleries? Purely for academic purposes, of course, Max finished. The final piece fell into place a week later when one of Max's former students, Olivia Morales, returned to campus to give a guest lecture. Now a successful architect, Olivia had always shown artistic talent alongside her technical skills. Over coffee after her lecture, Max carefully steered the conversation. Your structural designs have such an artistic quality, Olivia. Have you ever considered exhibiting your technical drawings as art? Olivia laughed. Actually, I've been experimenting with abstract paintings based on architectural principles. Nothing serious, just a hobby. I'd love to see them sometime, Max said casually. In fact, I know some gallery owners who might find your perspective fascinating. By the end of their meeting, Max had secured an invitation to view Olivia's artwork at her studio. What she didn't know was that she was about to become an unwitting piece in his elaborate game of revenge. As winter turned to spring, Maxwell Donovan meticulously laid the groundwork for his plan. On the surface, he appeared to be healing, engaging with students, pursuing new research, even dating occasionally. But beneath the carefully constructed facade, every move was calculated, every relationship leveraged toward a single purpose. Dorothy, Brandon, and Amber had built their happiness on the ruins of his life. Now, with infinite patience, he would dismantle theirs. Chapter 4. The Approach. Summer arrived with sweltering heat and the execution of the first phase of Max's plan. Olivia Morales' architectural-inspired paintings had proven even more impressive than he'd anticipated, technically complex, visually striking, and utterly unique in approach. These are remarkable, Max told her honestly during his third visit to her studio. You've developed something genuinely innovative. Olivia smiled, tucking a strand of her dark hair behind her ear. Coming from you, that means a lot. But they're just a personal outlet. They deserve to be seen, Max insisted. Have you considered exhibiting? Olivia shrugged. I wouldn't even know where to start. The art world isn't exactly welcoming to outsiders, especially those with day jobs. What if I could help? Max offered. I have some connections. After careful persuasion, Olivia agreed to let Max approach galleries on her behalf, under one condition. Her identity would remain anonymous until a show was confirmed. She would exhibit under the pseudonym OM to avoid any perception of conflict with her architectural firm. This anonymity was perfect for Max's purposes. He assembled a portfolio of Olivia's work, created an artist's statement that was deliberately vague about the creator's background, and began submitting to select galleries, strategically excluding Galloway Fine Arts. Word spread quickly about the mysterious OM. Several mid-tier galleries expressed interest, exactly as Max had predicted. The architectural precision combined with abstract expression created a unique selling point, and the artist's anonymity added an element of intrigue. When 3 galleries made offers, Max orchestrated a bidding competition, generating buzz in the local art scene. As he'd calculated, news eventually reached Brandon Galloway, who prided himself on discovering fresh talent before his competitors. The invitation to bring OM's portfolio to Galloway Fine Arts arrived within 2 weeks. He took the bait, Max told Nate, showing him the email. Are you sure Olivia won't insist on attending? Nate asked. She's in Singapore for a major project until next month, Max replied. She's given me authorization to negotiate on her behalf. By the time she returns, everything will be in motion. The following Tuesday, Max entered Galloway Fine Arts for the first time, portfolio case in hand. The gallery was everything he'd expected: minimalist white walls, polished concrete floors, strategic lighting highlighting the displayed works. The space spoke of money, taste, and exclusivity. A young receptionist greeted him. Welcome to Galloway Fine Arts. Do you have an appointment? Maxwell Donovan, here to see Mr. Galloway regarding the OM portfolio. Of course. Mr. Galloway is expecting you. Please follow me. She led him through the main exhibition space toward the offices and back. Max's eyes scanned methodically, noting security camera positions, staffing, and, most importantly, the exhibited works. He recognized several pieces from artists he'd researched, including a sculpture that had been the subject of attribution controversy a few years ago. Brandon Galloway's office reflected the man himself, sleek, expensively appointed, designed to impress. Brandon rose from behind his glass desk as Max entered. At 43, he was objectively handsome, tall, with salt and pepper hair styled meticulously, wearing a custom suit that showcased his athletic build. Professor Donovan, thank you for coming. His handshake was firm, his smile practiced. If he recognized Max's name or made any connection to Dorothy, he showed no sign. Mr. Galloway, I appreciate you making time. Max's tone was professionally neutral as he placed the portfolio on the desk. Please, call me Brandon. Anyone representing talent like OM deserves my full attention. They discussed the works as Brandon examined each piece carefully. His analysis was surprisingly insightful, and despite himself, Max could see why he was successful in the art world. The man clearly had an eye for quality and marketability. These are exceptional, Brandon finally said. The technical precision combined with emotional depth is rare. I'm particularly interested in the series exploring tensile structures. The artist will be pleased to hear that. Those are some of their most personal works. Brandon leaned back. I'd like to meet OM personally. I prefer to work directly with my artists. Unfortunately, that won't be possible yet, Max replied smoothly. OM is committed to anonymity until exhibiting arrangements are finalized. Professional considerations. Brandon frowned. That's unusual. So is their work, Max countered. Worth accommodating, I believe. After further negotiation, Brandon made an offer for an exclusive exhibition, with terms that were generous but not extraordinary. Max had anticipated this opening gambit. I'll convey your interest to OM, he said, gathering the portfolio. However, I should mention that Westridge Contemporary and Klein Gallery have also made offers. OM will be considering all options. Brandon's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. I'm sure those are fine institutions, but Galloway Fine Arts offers exposure that smaller galleries simply can't match. We have collectors who rely on my judgment. Max nodded. A valid point. I'll be sure to emphasize that. As he turned to leave, the office door opened. Max's heart faltered momentarily as Dorothy entered, then stopped short at the sight of him. Max, she breathed, color draining from her face. Dorothy, he acknowledged with a slight nod. Nice to see you. Brandon looked between them, confusion giving way to realization. You two know each other? Dorothy found her voice. Max was my husband. Brandon's professional demeanor instantly cooled. I see. Professor Donovan, you failed to mention this connection. Max raised an eyebrow. It didn't seem relevant to our professional discussion. My personal history doesn't affect the quality of OM's work. The tension in the room was palpable as Dorothy moved to Brandon's side, her hand resting possessively on his shoulder. Well, Brandon said tightly, this is certainly unexpected. Life is full of surprises, Max replied. I'll await your formal offer by email, Mr. Galloway. Good day to you both. As he walked out through the gallery, Max caught sight of a familiar figure by the reception desk, Amber. She hadn't seen him yet, absorbed in explaining something to a patron. He paused briefly, taking in the daughter he hadn't seen in nearly 2 years. She'd cut her hair into a stylish bob, dyed a shade darker than her natural color. Her posture exuded confidence as she gestured toward a large canvas. She was flourishing in this world, building a life that deliberately excluded him. Before she could notice his presence, Max turned and exited the gallery. In the privacy of his car, he allowed himself a moment of raw emotion, grief mixed with determination. Then he called Nate. Phase 1 complete, he said when his protege answered. They took the bait. And Nate? Dorothy was there. And Amber. Are you okay, Professor? Max started the engine. I will be. When this is finished, I will be. Chapter 5. The Infiltration. While negotiations with Galloway Fine Arts proceeded through formal channels, Max implemented the next phase of his plan. Nate had developed a cutting-edge art authentication system through his doctoral research, combining specialized imaging techniques with materials analysis. Their paper on the technology had gained attention in both academic and art circles. Galloway's called 3 times, Nate reported, entering Max's office with coffee. Their authentication specialist is very interested in our methods. Max accepted the coffee with a nod of thanks. And you've been appropriately hesitant? Exactly as planned. I told them we're still refining the system and aren't ready for commercial applications. That only made them more persistent. Good. Brandon won't be able to resist technology that could give him an edge over competitors. Max checked his calendar. Has Olivia returned from Singapore? Landed yesterday. She's ecstatic about the Galloway offer. The pieces were aligning perfectly. Max had negotiated an excellent exhibition deal for Olivia's work, ensuring her anonymity until the opening night. Brandon, eager to secure the mysterious OM before competitors, had agreed to terms more favorable than he typically offered unknown artists. The next day, Max received a call from an unexpected source. Professor Donovan, this is Amber Levitt from Galloway Fine Arts. Max's grip tightened on the phone. Miss Levitt, how can I help you? Mr. Galloway would like to arrange a demonstration of the authentication technology you and your doctoral student have developed. As assistant curator, I've been asked to coordinate this meeting. Her voice was purely professional, as if speaking to a stranger. Max matched her tone. I'll need to consult with Mr. Pierce. The system is his doctoral work, and we've been selective about demonstrations. Of course, Mr. Galloway is willing to discuss potential exclusivity arrangements if the technology proves as impressive as reported. I'll have Mr. Pierce contact you directly to discuss possibilities, Max replied, carefully neutral. After ending the call, Max sat motionless, processing the interaction. He'd known this confrontation would come eventually, but the emotional impact still caught him off guard. His daughter had spoken to him as if he were a complete stranger, no acknowledgement of their past, no hint of their shared history. All the better, he muttered to himself. Makes what comes next easier. The demonstration was scheduled for the following week. Nate would present the technology while Max remained uninvolved, ostensibly due to his commitments to OM's exhibition planning. This separation was strategic. It allowed Nate to build trust with Galloway independently. On the day of the demonstration, Nate arrived at the gallery with equipment cases and a confident demeanor. Max monitored remotely through a discreet earpiece, able to hear the proceedings via Nate's phone. "Mr. Pierce, welcome." Brandon's voice came through clearly. "We're excited to see this technology in action." "Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Galloway. I've brought a portable version of our system for today's demonstration. Let me introduce our team. You know Amber Levitt, our assistant curator. This is Dorothy Galloway, our PR director, and Liam Walsh, our current authentication specialist." Dorothy Galloway. She'd taken his name already. Max's jaw clenched at the confirmation. Nate proceeded with the demonstration, focusing on a test painting they'd prepared, a near-perfect replica of a mid-century abstract expressionist work. The system methodically analyzed pigments, canvas composition, and underlying sketches, conclusively identifying the piece as modern despite its convincing appearance. "This is remarkable," Liam Walsh admitted. "The spectral analysis alone is more detailed than anything we currently use. The algorithms are what make it truly revolutionary," Nate explained. "They compare results against our database of known materials and techniques from different periods." Brandon was clearly impressed. "And this database, how extensive is it?" "Currently focused on American and European works from 1850 forward, but expanding weekly." The discussion turned to technical specifications, potential applications, and, inevitably, cost and exclusivity. "We're not officially marketing the system yet," Nate said, repeating their planned position. "Professor Donovan and I are still publishing our research. Commercial applications would be premature, but not impossible," Brandon pressed. "Galloway Fine Arts could serve as your beta testing partner. We have the inventory and expertise to help refine the system, plus connections throughout the art world once you're ready to launch commercially." "That's certainly worth considering," Nate replied, though Professor Donovan is quite protective of the academic integrity of the project. "Max always was stubborn about his principles," Dorothy commented, her first contribution to the conversation. "You know Professor Donovan?" Nate asked, feigning ignorance. A brief, uncomfortable silence followed. "Dorothy is Professor Donovan's ex-wife," Brandon explained smoothly. "Ancient history now." "I see," Nate said. "I wasn't aware of the connection." "It's not relevant to our professional relationship," Amber interjected, her tone crisp. "Of course not," Nate agreed. "Speaking of professional relationships, Professor Donovan mentioned you're hosting an exhibition for OM soon. I've seen some of that work. Extraordinary stuff." The conversation shifted to safer ground as they discussed the upcoming exhibition. By the end of the demonstration, Brandon had extended an invitation for Nate to return the following week to test the system on selected pieces from their inventory. Phase 2 complete, Nate reported later in Max's office. "They're hooked on the technology." Galloway practically salivated at the possibility of exclusive access. "And their reactions to my name?" Max asked. "Revealing." Dorothy seemed uncomfortable. Amber was defensive. Brandon tried to dismiss it as insignificant. Max nodded. "And Olivia's exhibition plans?" "Proceeding is scheduled. They're giving OM the main gallery space for the opening in 3 weeks." Brandon mentioned the significant marketing investment they're making. Clearly, he's positioning this as a major discovery. "Perfect," Max said softly. Now we move to Phase 3. Chapter 6, The Deception. As the exhibition date approached, activity at Galloway Fine Arts intensified. Brandon had launched an aggressive marketing campaign for the mysterious OM, generating significant buzz in the art community. Previews for select collectors had resulted in multiple pre-opening sales commitments at impressive prices. Meanwhile, Nate had become a regular presence at the gallery, testing their authentication system on various pieces and building rapport with the staff, including Amber. His reports to Max were detailed and strategic. "She's talented," Nate acknowledged after his 4th visit, but insecure about her knowledge. "She compensates by being exceptionally prepared and slightly overconfident in her assessments." And her relationship with Brandon and Dorothy? Professional with Brandon in public, but there's an underlying familiarity. With Dorothy, more complicated. There's affection, but also tension. They disagreed twice during my visit, once about artist placement, once about invitation protocols. Dorothy deferred both times, but not happily. Max absorbed this information, adding it to his mental map of the gallery's dynamics. Any vulnerability in their authentication processes? Nate hesitated. Possibly. Their specialist, Liam, is competent but overwhelmed. Brandon's been aggressive about acquiring new works, particularly during the past year. Some pieces have received only cursory examination due to time constraints. This aligned perfectly with Max's research. Brandon had expanded his inventory significantly after marrying Dorothy, apparently using her money to fund new acquisitions. His reputation was built on discovering undervalued artists who subsequently appreciated, a track record that attracted wealthy investors and collectors. 3 days before the exhibition opening, Max met with Olivia at her studio to review final arrangements. "I still can't believe this is happening," she said, watching as he photographed her newest works. "A solo show at Galloway is a dream scenario." "You've earned it," Max replied sincerely. "Your work is exceptional." Olivia studied him thoughtfully. "Why have you done all this, Max? Don't misunderstand. I'm incredibly grateful, but this level of involvement is above and beyond what any former professor would do for a student." Max considered his answer carefully. "Let's just say I understand what it's like to have your contributions overlooked. I wanted to ensure that didn't happen to you. Well, I can never repay you." She smiled. "Are you nervous about the opening?" "I know I am." "Everything will go exactly as planned," Max assured her. The morning of the exhibition, Max executed the final critical phase of his plan. He called Nate, who was scheduled to conduct one last demonstration at the gallery. "Test piece 37B today," Max instructed. "Make sure Brandon and Amber are both present for the analysis." Test piece 37B was the linchpin of their strategy, a painting they had commissioned from a talented forger, replicating the style of a mid-century artist whose works commanded significant prices. The piece had been artificially aged using techniques that would fool conventional examination but would be detected by their advanced system. "Are you sure about this timing?" Nate asked. "It's cutting it close to the opening." "That's precisely the point," Max replied. "Maximum impact with minimum recovery time." That afternoon, Nate conducted the demonstration as planned. Brandon, eager to showcase the technology to a potential investor, had brought in one of his most important clients. "This system represents the future of authentication," Brandon explained to the elegant older woman beside him. "Even the most sophisticated forgeries can't escape detection." Nate set up the equipment, focusing it on test piece 37B, which they had planted among the gallery's inventory the previous week with a convincing provenance document. "This is from your recent acquisition from the Harrington estate?" Nate asked innocently. "Yes," Brandon confirmed. "A significant find. Davidson rarely produced works of this size during his blue period." The system ran its analysis, projecting results onto the monitor visible to everyone present. Green indicators gradually turned red as discrepancies emerged. "That's odd." Nate frowned, feigning concern. "The pigment composition shows inconsistencies with Davidson's known palette from that period." Brandon stepped closer. "What does that mean?" "It could be nothing. Perhaps he was experimenting," Nate said carefully. "But the canvas dating is also problematic. The system is indicating the material is much newer than the 1962 attribution." The potential investor's expression shifted from interest to alarm. "Are you saying this is a forgery, Mr. Pierce?" Brandon intervened smoothly. "Let's not jump to conclusions. Even the best technology can return false positives. Liam, get your equipment and verify these findings immediately." But as additional tests were run, the evidence mounted. The painting, which Brandon had recently acquired at significant expense and already discussed selling to another collector, showed unmistakable signs of modern creation. "I don't understand," Brandon muttered, visibly shaken. The provenance documentation was impeccable. "Paperwork can be falsified," the investor noted coldly. "The question is how many other pieces in your inventory might be similarly questionable." The damage was done. Word spread rapidly through the gallery staff as Liam pulled additional recent acquisitions for emergency testing. The investor departed with thinly veiled threats about informing her collector friends. Nate, playing his role perfectly, offered sympathy and discretion. "I can stay and help test other pieces, if you'd like." "This must be devastating." Brandon, ashen-faced, nodded. "Please. And not a word of this to anyone else." "Of course," Nate promised. "Though I should inform Professor Donovan about the system's performance." "Donovan," Brandon repeated, a new suspicion dawning in his eyes. This piece was authenticated before your system ever arrived. Now suddenly it's exposed as fake on the day of our major exhibition opening. Nate affected confusion. What are you suggesting? The system simply detected what your processes missed. Before Brandon could respond, Amber rushed in. The caterers are here for setup, and the OM installation team needs access to. She stopped, registering the tension. What's happened? We may have a situation with some recent acquisitions, Brandon said tightly. Keep Dorothy occupied with the opening preparations. I don't want her distracted. As chaos engulfed the gallery's back offices, Max received Nate's text, package delivered. Reaction exceeding expectations. He smiled and headed home to dress for the evening's exhibition opening. Chapter 7. The Unveiling. The Galloway Fine Arts Gallery glowed like a beacon against the evening sky, its windows illuminating the street with warm light that beckoned the city's elite. A red carpet extended from the entrance, flanked by minimalist arrangements of white lilies. The guest list for OM's debut exhibition included celebrities, critics, major collectors, and art world influencers. Exactly the scene Brandon Galloway had meticulously cultivated for his gallery's reputation. Behind the glamorous facade, however, simmered barely contained panic. Max arrived precisely 30 minutes after the official start time, dressed in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit. From the sidewalk, he observed the crowded gallery interior, spotting Dorothy near the entrance in a striking emerald dress, greeting guests with practiced charm. Brandon was notably absent from her side. Professor Donovan. Olivia Morales appeared beside him, radiant in a sculptural black gown that echoed the architectural themes of her artwork. I can't believe this moment is finally here. You deserve every bit of this recognition, Max told her sincerely. Are you ready to unveil the mysterious OM to the world? Olivia laughed nervously. As ready as I'll ever be. It feels surreal. There are people in there whose work I've studied for years. They're about to become your peers, Max assured her. Shall we make our entrance? Inside, the gallery hummed with conversation and anticipation. OM's works dominated the main space, dramatically lit to emphasize their complexity and precision. Already, red dots indicating sales appeared beside several pieces. Dorothy spotted them immediately, her professional smile faltering briefly before she composed herself and approached. Professor Donovan, welcome. Her tone was carefully neutral. And you must be OM? I'm Dorothy Galloway, head of public relations. Olivia Morales, Olivia replied, extending her hand. Your gallery is stunning. Thank you for this opportunity. Dorothy blinked in surprise. Olivia Morales? The architect. Architecture is my profession, Olivia explained. Art has been my private passion until Max convinced me to share it. Dorothy's gaze shifted to Max, questions and suspicions evident in her expression. How fortunate that Max discovered your talent. If you'll excuse me, I should introduce you to some eager collectors. As Dorothy led Olivia away, Max navigated through the crowd, accepting congratulations from those who recognized him as OM's representative. He noticed Amber across the room, engaged in animated discussion with a reporter, purposefully avoiding looking in his direction. Nate materialized at his elbow, offering a glass of champagne. Quite the success, he murmured. 6 pieces sold already, and the formal unveiling hasn't even happened. And our other project? Max asked quietly. Progressing rapidly. Brandon's been testing pieces all afternoon. 3 more questionable attributions identified. He's barely holding it together. As if on cue, Brandon emerged from the back offices, his public persona firmly in place despite the strain evident around his eyes. He made his way directly to the center of the room, signaling for attention. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this extraordinary evening at Galloway Fine Arts. His voice carried naturally, commanding the space. Tonight marks a significant milestone for our gallery, the introduction of an artist whose work represents the exciting intersection of precision and emotion, structure and fluidity. The crowd quieted, attention focusing on Brandon as he continued his practiced speech. Max watched Dorothy's expression carefully, her eyes repeatedly darting to the back offices with barely concealed concern. For months, the art world has speculated about the identity of OM, Brandon was saying. Tonight, we are privileged to introduce you to the remarkable talent behind these works. Please welcome Olivia Morales. Applause filled the gallery as Olivia stepped forward, blushing slightly under the attention. Brandon guided her through a brief interview, highlighting her architectural background and unique approach. The audience was captivated, particularly when she described how structural engineering concepts informed her artistic expression. Throughout this triumphant moment, Max observed the subtle undercurrents of tension. Brandon's performance was flawless, but his posture betrayed his distraction. Dorothy kept glancing at her phone. Amber had positioned herself near an exit, as if preparing for a quick retreat. The evening proceeded according to plan. Champagne flowed. Critics praised. Collectors purchased. By 9 o'clock, nearly every piece bore a red dot, and Olivia was surrounded by admirers. Success by any measure. It was then that Max implemented the final twist of the evening. Approaching Brandon during a rare moment alone, he extended his hand. "Congratulations on a successful opening, Mr. Galloway. OM is certainly the discovery you promised." Brandon's handshake was brief, his smile tight. "Professor Donovan." "Yes, we're pleased with the response. Now if you'll excuse me, I have matters requiring my attention." "Of course. Authentication concerns can be so time-consuming." Brandon froze. "What did you say?" "Oh, has Nate not shared the latest results? Several pieces from your Modern Masters collection displayed similar irregularities to the Davidson piece. Quite troubling." Brandon's professional veneer cracked. "This is your doing, isn't it? Some elaborate revenge scheme." "I merely introduced you to an exceptional artist and innovative authentication technology," Max replied calmly. "If these tools revealed problems with your inventory, that hardly seems my responsibility. You orchestrated this, tonight of all nights." Brandon's voice rose slightly before he caught himself, glancing around to ensure they weren't overheard. "Careful," Max cautioned. "Scenes aren't good for business, especially when your gallery's reputation for authenticity is already compromised." Brandon's face flushed with barely suppressed rage. "What do you want?" "Want? I have everything I want. OM's exhibition is a triumph. Nate's authentication system is proving its value. My part in this evening is complete." Max sipped his champagne. "Though I do wonder how your investors will react when they learn about the authentication issues. Art collectors can be so unforgiving about such matters." Before Brandon could respond, commotion erupted near the entrance. A tall man in an expensive suit was arguing with security, his voice carrying across the gallery. "I don't give a damn about your guest list. I've invested over $3 million in this gallery, and I want answers from Galloway now." It was Harold Wentworth, one of Brandon's major investors. The potential buyer from that afternoon had clearly spread the word faster than anticipated. Max raised an eyebrow. "Your investors appear to be seeking those answers already. How unfortunate." He walked away as Brandon rushed to intercept the irate investor, leaving chaos in his wake. Across the room, he caught Dorothy's gaze, her expression a mixture of confusion and dawning horror as she registered the confrontation unfolding. Amber approached her mother, whispering urgently in her ear. Dorothy's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes immediately finding Max in the crowd. The look she gave him contained recognition of what was happening and why. Max inclined his head slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement, before turning to join Olivia among her admirers. His revenge had only just begun. Chapter 8. The Collapse. The 3 weeks following the exhibition opening unfolded exactly as Max had calculated. Art news outlets initially focused on Olivia's debut success, but whispers about authentication issues at Galloway Fine Arts soon overshadowed the positive coverage. Brandon attempted damage control, issuing a statement about enhanced verification protocols and commitment to authenticity, but the damage was spreading. Harold Wentworth had demanded an immediate audit of all works he'd purchased through the gallery. When 2 pieces from his collection showed questionable provenance, he filed a lawsuit alleging fraud and negligence. Other collectors quickly followed suit. Nate, still playing his role as the objective technology expert, was quoted in several articles about the importance of thorough authentication processes. His diplomatic comments carefully avoided direct criticism of Galloway, while simultaneously emphasizing the prevalence of forgeries in the high-end art market. Max monitored these developments from a distance, receiving regular updates from his network of contacts. He hadn't returned to the gallery since the opening, but a chance encounter at a university fundraiser brought him face-to-face with Dorothy once again. She approached him directly at the reception, alabaster skin pale against her black cocktail dress. "You've destroyed everything," she said without preamble, voice low and controlled despite the accusation. "Are you satisfied?" Max regarded her calmly. "I merely provided tools that revealed the truth. If Brandon built his reputation on fraudulent attributions, that's hardly my doing." "Don't pretend this wasn't deliberate," Dorothy hissed. "You engineered this entire situation, finding Olivia, developing that authentication system, timing everything for maximum damage." "An interesting theory," Max replied, "though it presumes I care enough about your new life to invest such effort. Perhaps Brandon simply got careless, cutting corners to expand too quickly." Dorothy's composure slipped momentarily. "We're facing financial ruin. The lawsuits, the canceled sales, the reputational damage, it's devastating." "How unfortunate. Though not nearly as devastating as discovering your wife and daughter have been lying to you for months before abandoning you entirely." Max's tone remained pleasant, but his eyes hardened. "Perspective is everything, Dorothy." She paled further. Amber was young, confused. 22 is old enough to know loyalty from betrayal. Max cut her off. "She was an adult who made her choice. As did you. What do you want from us?" Dorothy asked, a tremor in her voice. "Money? A public apology? Name your price to call off this vendetta." Max smiled without warmth. "That assumes there's a price. There isn't. Some debts can only be paid in kind." He walked away, leaving her standing alone amidst the crowd of academics and donors. The following week, the situation at Galloway Fine Arts deteriorated further. An anonymous tip led the Art Authentication Board to launch a formal investigation into the gallery's practices. Brandon was forced to close the gallery temporarily to facilitate the review process, a transparent attempt to stem the bleeding of his reputation. Meanwhile, Olivia's career flourished. Coverage of her unique artistic approach generated interest from multiple galleries, and a prestigious architecture journal featured her work on its cover, highlighting the relationship between her structural designs and artistic expression. Nate's authentication system attracted attention from museums and major auction houses, establishing him as an emerging authority in art verification technology. His doctoral thesis received exceptional marks, with job offers arriving from institutions across the country. Everything was proceeding according to plan until an unexpected development occurred. Amber Levitt requested a meeting with Max. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning. Its subject line, simply "request for discussion." The message was brief and formal. "Professor Donovan, I believe it is time we speak directly. I propose meeting at Riverside Coffee tomorrow at 2 p.m. I will be there regardless of whether you respond to this email. Amber Levitt." Max stared at the screen, considering the implications. This wasn't part of his calculated sequence, but it presented an opportunity he couldn't ignore. The following day, he arrived at the coffee shop 10 minutes early, selecting a corner table with a clear view of the entrance. Exactly at 2 p.m., Amber walked in, scanning the room until she spotted him. She'd lost weight, dark circles shadowing her eyes, but her stride remained purposeful as she approached. "Thank you for coming," she said, settling into the chair across from him. "Your message suggested you'd be here whether I came or not," Max replied. "That would have been a waste of your time." A ghost of a smile flickered across her face, still literal as ever. They sat in silence while Amber ordered coffee. Max noticed her hands trembling slightly as she wrapped them around the mug. "Brandon's gallery is finished," she finally said. "The investigation found multiple pieces with fabricated provenance. His reputation is destroyed." "I read the coverage," Max acknowledged. "Unfortunate for those who trusted his expertise." Amber met his gaze directly. "We both know this was your doing. All of it. Olivia Morales, the authentication system, the timing, everything." "That's quite an accusation. Do you have evidence?" "I don't need evidence. I know how you think, how you plan. This has your signature all over it. Methodical, comprehensive, perfect in execution." There was something almost like grudging admiration in her tone. Max didn't confirm or deny, simply watching her. "Mom and Brandon are divorcing," Amber continued. "He blames her for introducing you back into his orbit. She blames him for cutting corners with authentication. They're tearing each other apart. And you're caught in the middle," Max observed. Again, Amber's jaw tightened. "I made my choice 3 years ago." "Yes, you did. quite forcefully as I recall. You're dead to me. I found a new dad. Those words tend to stick with a person. She flinched. I was angry, hurt. No, Max interrupted sharply. You don't get to rewrite history. You weren't some confused child. You were a college graduate with a degree I paid for, making a calculated decision to align yourself with what you perceived as the winning side. Is that what you think? Amber's voice rose slightly. That I abandoned you for what? Money? Status? Your actions spoke clearly. You changed your name, cut all contact, returned my calls with legal threats. When Dorothy chose Brandon, you chose him too, as your replacement father. Tears welled in Amber's eyes. You have no idea what I was going through. Enlighten me, Max said coldly. Explain what possible justification you had for such complete betrayal. Amber took a shaky breath. Mom had been unhappy for years. You were always working, always focused on your research, your students. She felt invisible. When she met Brandon, he made her feel seen again. I watched her come alive in a way I'd never witnessed before. So you decided to punish me for her unhappiness by erasing me from your life? No. Amber hesitated. At first, I tried to stay neutral. But Brandon offered me the internship at his gallery, my dream opportunity. You'd always been skeptical about my art history degree, always pushing me towards something more practical. I wanted security for you, Max said. Stability. Brandon believed in my passion. He opened doors I never thought possible. Amber wiped away a tear. Then Mom told me you were fighting the divorce, making things difficult. She was so stressed, so miserable. Brandon suggested it might help if I created distance. Max's expression hardened. And you agreed to cut me out completely. To break all contact. To return the tuition I'd sacrificed everything to provide. I was wrong, Amber whispered. I know that now. I let myself believe their version of events because it was easier, because it aligned with what I wanted. And now that their house of cards has collapsed, you've come seeking. What? Forgiveness? Reconciliation? Amber met his gaze directly. The truth. I want to know why you waited 3 years. Why now? Why not destroy Brandon immediately after I sent that letter? Max considered her question carefully. Revenge served hot is satisfying but short-lived. Served cold, it's justice. This goes beyond justice, Amber said. You've been planning this for years, positioning every piece perfectly. What happens next in your grand design? Do you come after me now? You've already lost everything you valued, Max replied. Your mentor, your career trajectory, your new father. What more could I possibly take? Amber's face crumpled. My real father. Any chance at fixing what I broke? For a moment, Max felt the ice around his heart crack slightly. The young woman before him, despite everything, was still his daughter, still carried his determination and intellect. Some things, once broken, can't be repaired, he said finally. They can only be rebuilt into something different. Amber nodded slowly, understanding the implicit message. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know I understand what I did, and I'm sorry. Truly sorry. She stood to leave, but Max's voice stopped her. Amber, there's something you should know. She turned, hope flickering across her features. Your ex-boyfriend, Ryan Sullivan. He didn't just walk out of your life 3 years ago. I found him. Amber paled. What are you talking about? After you cut contact, I investigated everyone in your new life. Ryan had an impressive record. 3 relationships ended with him cleaning out financial accounts before disappearing. You were nearly victim number 4. That's impossible, Amber whispered. He loved me. He loved your connection to Brandon Galloway, your access to valuable artwork and wealthy collectors. When you confronted him about the suspicious withdrawals from your joint account, he didn't abandon you on a whim. He left because I contacted him directly. Amber sank back into her chair. You what? I offered him a choice, disappear completely or face prosecution for his previous cons. He chose wisely. Max's expression remained impassive. You may have rejected me as your father, but I never stopped protecting you. Tears flowed freely down Amber's cheeks now. I had no idea. You weren't meant to. But now, perhaps, you understand that true loyalty isn't contingent on circumstances or convenience. Max stood, placing money on the table for both their coffees. I have a meeting to attend. Goodbye, Amber. As he walked away, he heard her quiet voice. Can I call you sometime? He paused without turning. That's your choice to make. Again. Chapter 9, The Resolution. 3 months after the gallery scandal broke, Brandon Galloway's once illustrious career lay in ruins. The Art Authentication Board's investigation had uncovered systemic fraud. At least 17 pieces sold through his gallery over the past 5 years had falsified provenance or questionable attributions. Criminal charges for wire fraud and tax evasion followed, with prosecutors alleging he'd knowingly sold forgeries to inflate his gallery's reputation. Dorothy, having filed for divorce immediately after the scandal erupted, faced her own reckoning. Her association with the gallery had tainted her professional reputation in the art world. Financial audits revealed she'd invested nearly all her divorce settlement from Max into Galloway Fine Arts, funds that were now entangled in lawsuits and potential seizures. Max monitored these developments with detached interest, his focus shifting to other matters. Nate had accepted a prestigious position with the Museum of Modern Art's Conservation Department, where his authentication technology was being implemented as a new standard. Olivia's career had skyrocketed, with commissions for both architectural projects and art installations flowing in steadily. His own life had found a new equilibrium. After years of isolation, he'd begun reconnecting with old friends, accepting social invitations, even dating occasionally. The consuming fire of revenge had burned down to embers, leaving space for other pursuits. On a crisp autumn morning, Max was preparing lecture notes in his campus office when a knock interrupted his concentration. "Come in," he called, expecting a student with questions about the midterm assignment. Instead, Amber stood in the doorway, more composed than at their coffee shop meeting, but still carrying the shadows of recent months in her expression. "I should have called first," she said hesitantly. "I can come back another time." Max gestured to the chair across from his desk. "I have 20 minutes before my next class." Amber settled into the seat, setting a leather portfolio on her lap. "I've been offered a position at the Miller Foundation's Authentication Department. They were impressed by my ability to identify inconsistencies in several pieces at Galloway before the official investigation." "Congratulations," Max said neutrally. "It's a respected institution. I start next month." She opened the portfolio, removing a thick envelope. "Before I begin this new chapter, I needed to address the past properly." She slid the envelope across the desk. Max made no move to take it. "What is this?" "The full tuition amount you paid for my degree, with interest." Amber's voice was steady. "I've been working 3 jobs to save it." Max studied her face, seeing the determination so like his own. "Keep it. Start your new life without that debt." Amber shook her head. "I need to repay what I took. Not just the money. That's the easy part. But the trust one destroyed. I know it can't be repaired instantly, if ever, but I have to start somewhere." After a moment's consideration, Max took the envelope. "I'll put it in a fund. For your future children's education, perhaps." A flash of surprise crossed Amber's face, followed by a tentative smile. "That's more than I deserve." "It's not about deserving. It's about legacy." Max leaned back in his chair. "Family isn't just about shared history or blood. It's about who stands beside you when it matters, who chooses you repeatedly, not just when it's convenient." Amber nodded, blinking back tears. "I've learned that lesson. The hard way. As have we all," Max acknowledged. A comfortable silence settled between them, not the charged tension of their previous encounter, but something more contemplative. "Have you heard from your mother?" Max finally asked. "She's moved to Portland, staying with her sister while the legal issues resolve." Amber twisted her hands in her lap. "She asks about you sometimes." Max raised an eyebrow. "I doubt that." "She does," Amber insisted. "Not directly, but she'll mention something from before, a trip we took, a holiday tradition, and then ask if I've spoken to you." "And Brandon?" Amber's expression hardened. "Awaiting trial. His lawyer is pushing for a plea deal, but the prosecution seems determined to make an example of him." Max nodded, unsurprised. The art world demanded a sacrificial lamb to restore confidence in the market, and Brandon had positioned himself perfectly for the role. Was it worth it? Amber asked suddenly. All the planning, the waiting, the perfect execution. Did it give you what you wanted? Max considered the question carefully. It wasn't about wanting something specific. It was about balance. A debt repaid. An equation completed. And is it completed? Before Max could answer, another knock came at the door. It opened to reveal Nate, dressed sharply in a suit that reflected his new professional status. "Professor," Sorry to interrupt, but he stopped, recognizing Amber. Miss Levitt. Unexpected. Mr. Pierce, Amber acknowledged, rising from her chair. I should go? You have class soon anyway. Max stood as well. Nate is giving a guest lecture in my graduate seminar today on authentication technologies in conservation. Amber gathered her portfolio. I'd be interested in hearing that sometime. You're welcome to attend, Max said, surprising himself with the spontaneous invitation. It starts in 15 minutes, room 307. Hesitation flickered across her face before she nodded. I'd like that. Thank you. After she left, Nate closed the door, his expression questioning. That seemed civil. How long has this reconciliation been developing? It's not a reconciliation, Max corrected. It's an assessment. A data-gathering phase. Nate smiled knowingly. Of course, Professor. Purely analytical. As they walked to the lecture hall together, Max found his thoughts turning not to the past, but to the future. Possibilities opening where before had been only the closed circuit of revenge. The lecture hall was nearly full when they arrived, eager graduate students ready with questions about Nate's groundbreaking work. Max spotted Amber in the back row, her attention focused entirely on the presentation as Nate began speaking. Halfway through the lecture, Max's phone vibrated with an incoming text. The number was unfamiliar, but the message instantly clear. They've arrested Brandon. Wire fraud, tax evasion, and falsifying business records. Bail denied. I thought you should hear it from me first. Dorothy. Max stared at the message, feeling the final piece of his long-planned revenge slide into place. Yet the satisfaction he'd anticipated felt different, tempered, complex, not the pure vindication he'd imagined. He glanced at Amber, watching her take notes on Nate's presentation, her expression focused and intelligent. At Nate himself, confident and articulate, building a career on genuine innovation rather than deception. At the students absorbing knowledge with enthusiasm and critical thinking. In pursuing justice for betrayal, he'd created something unexpected, a new network of authentic connections, opportunities for growth, genuine accomplishments. The revenge had been necessary, but it wasn't the end of the story. Merely a chapter closing. Max silenced his phone without responding to Dorothy's text. There was nothing more to say to her. Instead, he focused on the present moment. Nate's innovative research, the engaged students, Amber's tentative steps toward redemption. The past was settled, the future unwritten. As the lecture concluded to enthusiastic applause, Max felt something he hadn't experienced in years, a sense of possibility untethered from grievance. Whether Amber ultimately earned back a place in his life remained to be seen, but the choice would be made on new terms, with clear eyes and honest accounting. When Amber approached after the lecture, her expression both tentative and hopeful, Max made a decision. Coffee, he offered simply. I'd like that, she replied. They walked together from the building into the bright afternoon, leaving the shadows of the past behind, not forgotten, but finally in proper perspective. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.